or the foundational piece of change is fear. People are afraid that they are going to lose something or something is going to be unfamiliar and uncomfortable. So what you have to do is help people understand what the change is, and that they are going to lose some things. Change inevitably comes with both losses and gains. So you need to be honest and genuine about what that looks like.
Welcome to the Leader's Mindset, where we bring you conversations with leaders who are making an impact in business and our communities. Today, I'm here with Rosalind Cohen, aka Dr. Roz. She's the founder and president of Socius Strategies and the chief people officer at LNU Advisors. She helps organizations build inclusive, radically connected cultures that benefit individuals and drive business growth. She's also the author of The Engagement Dilemma. Thank you for being here today, Dr. Roz.
Thank you so much, Jason. Please call me Roz.
A lot of your work talks about belonging and connection. And I think there are a lot of misconceptions about belonging, connection, inclusion, what those things really are. So let's clear that up for the audience before we dive deeper into it. Tell us what those things really mean.
So when we talk about belonging and connection, what we're talking about is some feeling stuff, right? It's how you feel working in the company you work in, how you feel connected to the work and connected to the people. So it's this sense that when I walk in the door of my office, not every day, because we're not crazy people, but not every day, but when you walk in and you go, okay, I feel good. I feel like I am contributing in a way that is genuine to who I am, takes me to the heights of my intellect, and I'm able to really be involved in the work that I'm doing. But I also feel connected not only to the mission, but to the other people that work there. And I think we've spent so much time around diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging that we need to be able to add those things to the repertoire of connection, being able to see the whole big picture. And we all know that the DEI, has been politicized by this administration. And so really what I would like us to focus on is this belonging and connection, how people feel working in an organization.
Yeah, because I think we've all been there. We've all, like you said, not every day, but we've all worked in a place. And if you haven't, you're incredibly fortunate. We've all worked in a place where for a number of days in a row, we walk in and we go, what are we even doing here? And that's the mission side. And then when that's going wrong, sometimes we walk in, there's a whole series of days later where we go, what are we even doing here? And why am I doing it with these people, right? So I think we've all been there. And I think it's going to be such an important conversation about connection and belonging, why they're important. I do want to, without getting into the politics of it, but I do want to address for the audience, belonging, connection, how are they different from DEI?
So how are they different from DEI?
Yeah, because DEI has become so politicized.
Yep.
I'm not sure anyone even really knows what that means anymore. So how is it different from either what the intention of DEI was or is, and the perceptions of DEI? If we can try to clear that up a little bit, because I want people to really understand we're not talking about DEI. We're talking about something very specific, belonging, connection, and what we as leaders can do and probably need to do to make sure belonging and connection are part of our role as leaders in the workplace.
So I don't think that it is completely separate from DEI. There are components around diversity, equity, and inclusion, particularly around inclusion, that are critical to the way in which belonging and connection work. When we talk about managers and their ability to create teams, departments, organizational cultures that are inclusive of all the people that work there, what we're talking about is setting that foundation to be able to have a place where people feel connected to each other and feel as though they belong within the organization. So it's not, I wouldn't say it is cut off from that. It is more evolutionary. So when we think about belonging and connection, there's a recognition there that people are individuals and come with a whole host of different identities that they have either developed or been born into over the course of their lives. The difference here with belonging and connection is that you're able to then take those pieces of identity and create a space where people can connect with others who have similar identities, similar ways in which they move in the world. So it's really more, belonging and connection is about the feeling that you have when you have a culture that celebrates who you are as an individual, but also creates space for people to connect with each other based upon those different attributes and identities. So it's not exactly, it's more of an evolution in how we look at the workplace.
No, I love that. And it sounds like this is something very foundational that we all need to be doing as leaders, is looking for ways and helping people see on our team, see the ways that we are the same,
Yes.
whether that is mission, whether that is background, whether that is training, and focusing on what's the same. This is something we did very well in the Air Force. We do in the United States military very well. Now we have some advantages that not a lot of other people, not a lot of other organizations have, right? We put everybody in the same uniform. Everybody goes to the same basic training. We all get lots and lots of training and education on what makes us the same. So we have a lot of advantages there, but there are pieces of that we can take into our corporate culture or our small business culture.
That's right. So when we think about valuing the uniqueness that each person brings to an organization, but also recognize that there are things that we connect with one another based either upon those different unique qualities or based upon something else. So the example I use often is, I'm sitting in a meeting, you see the chief people officer, you have whatever conceptions about that role or me as a human. One of the things that you do not see is the fact that I knit. I knit square things. I can only knit square things. So if you need a blanket, you need a scarf, I'm your woman. I'm the person who can knit that for you. I can't knit a hat. I can't knit a sweater. None of it. But you would never know that, right? I'm not sitting here knitting anything while we're talking. But an inclusive leader will create a space where I can, as well as other people can, share these things about themselves so that it becomes a genuine way in which we can connect. And so I'm sitting in a room of people and, my manager says, tell us something that other people may not know about you that you're willing to share. And I say that I knit, and someone across the room goes, oh my God, I crochet. And somebody else over there says they do whatever else. And so all of a sudden you realize knitting is sort of pretty innocuous, but you realize that you're not alone. You realize that there is a commonality that you share with people who you may not have known about, you may not have been introduced to, but you do it in a way that's genuine. So maybe I never talk to these people again because the organization is big enough and I don't need to. Or maybe I seek them out and I'm like, oh my God, where do you get your yarn? I'm struggling. I can't find this. And we begin to develop a relationship. So what happens at that point is, if I had any negative preconceived notions about either of these two people, the knitter or the felter, based upon my experiences, so use something that's pretty sort of we see unfortunately a lot is race, right? So if I had preconceived notions about the race of either one of these individuals, and then all of a sudden we're talking about knitting, what we see happen in the research is that these preconceived notions about that negativity begin to fall away because I see the person for who they are versus the stereotype or what I've been told that person should be. So it's really at these moments that are so critical and only happen when organizations and managers know how to create these spaces to allow these conversations to happen.
This is back in my day when I was wearing an Air Force uniform and actually showing up to places to work with other people on a daily basis. This is what break room conversations were or water cooler talk was. I've been out of the game a long time, but I know even at the end of my time in the Air Force, that kind of stuff was really getting discouraged. Is that still true in corporate now? Are people trying to bring that back? It just seems so important to me that we need this water cooler talk, these break room conversations to do part of this.
Yeah, it's a great question. So this leads a little bit into the hybrid workforce, right? This idea that we can work remotely and work in offices. And I'm going to make a lot of enemies with this next statement, but I'm not the most tremendous fan of the hybrid workforce because you miss out on the opportunities to do that. Does it mean that they never happen? Absolutely not. But that's where it leans on the manager to create the opportunities less genuinely and more systematically and more defined, right? So at the beginning of a staff meeting or the beginning of a project meeting, you have people go around and tell something about themselves. Again, we're not looking at deep, this is not therapy. We're not looking at deep, dark secrets, but what we're looking for is who are you more than the human that shows up here, works your 8 to 10 hours a day, and then goes home. So it has to be intentional because it doesn't happen organically. With the regularity that it used to. Most companies are still doing the hybrid. We are, and I know if any of my colleagues listen to this, they'll be like, she needs to stop about not liking hybrid because we're not changing that. And I'm not saying that we should, but there then needs to be an intentionality by managers to create space that people can have these genuine conversations to have those kinds of connections.
Yeah, and we're big believers here that regardless of what the issue or the concept is in leadership, as leaders, we need to be intentional about it, especially if you're in a hybrid or remote workforce.
Right.
This is something you really, truly need to be intentional, whether you are leading a small team or you are the CEO of a company. And how are we doing this? So it's really important, I think, to be intentional about all aspects of leadership, but especially this one, when if you are hybrid or remote, people aren't getting the opportunities to have those conversations organically. So, and the great thing is, in your work, you have systematized this. And I want to dig into that a little bit. And I want to start with, what are the 3 levels of engagement?
So there are 3 types of engagement. This is what my dissertation is about all of this, so I speak to this with all kinds of confidence. So there are 3 types of engagement the research has found. There's the I feel, the I think, and I belong. So what we have found is that the I feel and I belong engagement. So I feel as though I am part of something in an organization. I feel connected to the work that I do. I belong is the connection that you have with individuals in your workplace. The I think, and more of this in my book, I think is really about the intellectual stimulation that you get when you walk in the door, when you're doing the work that you're doing. It's the problems that you solve. It's the puzzles that really sort of get you jazzed up. It's whatever that work is that gets you invigorated. What we found is managers have direct connection to the I feel and I belong. The more that they create inclusive spaces or act in ways, enact in behaviors that are what we describe as inclusive leadership behaviors, the more likely engagement and satisfaction within organizations are to increase. So when the manager has a conversation with their team and they're talking about a topic and they make sure that voices in the room are heard, even by saying things like, Susie, we haven't heard from you in a bit. Did you have anything that you want to add? Things like sending out the agenda in advance. So what you're doing is you are looking at the different types of ways in which people learn and want to contribute, and you're trying to bring all of those into the conversation as you can. There's still agency, and those people make decisions about whether they do or don't want to be a part of it, but you are creating the space for that to happen. The I think is interesting because we focus a lot on on how managers can create these spaces. There are books written, there's podcasts on all of that. Where we have a lot of power as employers and don't really, I think, utilize it as much is around the I think. So here's what usually happens, right? Someone decides that they're done with the job, they give their 2 weeks notice. everyone runs around going, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? They take the job description, they look at it, they say, yep, this is the role that we need. They send it to their HR people. HR people post it. They go through their process of hiring someone. The person gets hired, we move forward. What we don't do, every organization I've ever worked in, every company I've ever consulted in, what we don't do is pause. Someone says, I'm leaving, I'm giving you my 2 weeks notice. We don't take that pause. And the purpose of that pause is to ask a couple of questions. Do we still need this role? Yes or no? It's sort of like a decision tree. Do we need this role in the way that it is currently? Do we really know that the job description is really what this person is doing? How do we know that? Have we asked the person? Have we asked the people who work with this person? So by not pausing, we are just taking the box and moving it one step over to get the new people in the organization. By taking that pause, we have an opportunity to create or revamp or re-underwrite this job to then set up a structure, a recruiting process that allows us to hire the people who will be best in the role. So 3 different types of engagement, 2 of which managers have direct control over, or I should say not control, but influence over and impact on through inclusive leadership, 1 that really can be systematized if we just take a moment to breathe.
Yeah, I think that's really important. I want to underline that a little bit, is that as individual leaders, we have a lot of ability to influence the I feel and the I belong. And that's kind of our job as leaders, right? Kind of our number one job is the I feel and I belong. And then you made a really great case for, in the case of hiring, where the organization needs to pick up. There needs to be systems in place to tackle the I think part. Are there other areas where kind of the individual leader or manager ends and the organization needs to pick up on that I think part? Are there other processes we need to systematize?
Well, so we go through the recruiting process, then if we look at the talent life cycle, right, the next phase of that is onboarding. Onboarding is not the 1 week where they come in and they sign that they've read the handbook, they've filled out their I-9 information, they've gotten their laptop. That is part of onboarding. That is a very tactical and important part of onboarding. Onboarding should last a year. It should be all of the time that the person engages with others in the organization so that they understand some of the written and unwritten rules in the way people act. So, for example, well, I'll come back to that. It's the 3-month, 2-month, 1-month check-in with their manager. How's the job going? Is this, as we described it, is it really the job that you have? Is it different than what we thought it was going to be? What does that mean? How are they understanding the culture, and how is the organization setting up opportunities for people to engage in ways that allow those conversations to happen? So onboarding is another way that organizations have a very strong ability to impact how well a person feels connected to their organization. So we know that if someone leaves before they are there for a year, we've actually lost money as a company. That's just if you can do the dollars on that. So what are we doing to help that not happen? How are we creating the space for these people to feel connected and as though they belong?
Yeah, I think that's really important too, because I imagined a bunch of people spitting out their coffee, as you said, onboarding should last a year. But I think you've made a really good case for, if you're going to think through the process of the new job description, and then you're going to bring somebody in, you're going to go through that week of onboarding, about a month in, about 3 months in, about 6 months in, they should check in with their individual team leader or manager, and that individual team leader or manager should check in with the organization, because is the reality of how we're using this person the same as what we thought the job description would be? And if it's not, that's okay. But getting back to I feel, I belong, I think, closing that loop, right?
Yes, absolutely. Because you want to check in, right? We all make assumptions when we're hiring folks. The job is that what we need it to be. It is still the role that we have. It still fits in the same way in the organization. But companies evolve, people evolve, needs evolve. So how are we making sure that we are giving this person the experience that we said we were, and getting out from this person the intellect, the experience, all of the good stuff that we've hired them to do. And that's about constant conversation. I don't mean every day. I don't mean that you should check and go, how are you feeling today? If you want to do that and that's your leadership style, go for it. But what you should be doing is having regular, ongoing communication with your folks as leaders to find out how the work is doing. So it's about the content and the skills. It's about how they feel about the culture. It's about the ways in which they connect within the organization. How is that going for them?
When we look at tech companies, they're not always focused on employee happiness, belonging, inclusion, connection. They're focused on scale. They're focused on growth. They're focused on getting out the next product. But a lot of tech founders will say, I don't understand why they don't feel belonging. I don't understand why they don't feel connection. We have a ping pong table in the break room.
Yep. So what we're missing in that is the feeling of being valued and appreciated. Right? Getting the ping pong table or getting the beer on tap or the kombucha, if you're in the Bay Area, is not the same thing as telling someone that they've done a good job, or allowing them or creating the opportunity and space for them to feel as though they are really contributing. They are seen for the work that they're doing. They're seen for the contributions that they give, and they are valued for that. It's the beer does not override what a great job, Jason. Like, you did that presentation in front of everybody and you really nailed it. Like, and here's why. That does not equate to beer or ping pong tables. So there's a sense of feeling valued. There's a sense of feeling seen and appreciated, that all of the accoutrements that you can have, they don't equate. So when we want people to feel engaged and we want them to feel comfortable in the space, it's really more about that value and being seen than it is about the other. Aside from money, because everybody wants to be paid a fair, correct wage for the work that they do.
Yeah. As much as when I was in the Air Force, I believed in the mission and it was important, I still took my paychecks, right? It's
right.
like there's very few people who are signing their paycheck over to charity or just saying, don't pay me for the work they put in, right? But that appreciation is really important. We're all balanced in some way on a spectrum of appreciating intrinsic motivation, being intrinsically motivated and extrinsically motivated. Yep. And all of us fall somewhere between those two extremes.
And it changes, right? It can change day to day, right? If my rent is due, I am probably externally motivated because I want to make sure that I have a place to live. But if I'm feeling like in 2 years I want to do something else, my internal motivation for staying at this job may be the experience that I get and the way that I am perceived in the organization and my ability to get positive references. That's the internal motivation, right? So it can vary very greatly. Also depends upon where you are in your life, right? If you're in the beginning of your career and you want to move on to other things, how are you perceived in the organization, and how are they going to be able to recommend you or see you and be able to tout your praises? That's going to be important.
Yeah, I think that's really important for employers to understand as the workforce skews younger. We actually just recorded with another guest yesterday on this podcast, and he brought out a bunch of statistics from some surveys that have been done recently with millennials and Gen Z workers. 75% of them are willing to take a pay cut to go do work they believe has more meaning than the work they're doing now.
That's a big, I would also wonder how many are willing to take a pay cut or have less of those sort of external motivations to feel, right, that they are contributing to the world in a better way, not just within their organization, but sort of the bigger picture of the world. We used to see that in a lot of, when we talked about sustainability. Right, we saw that as being a very important factor in people's desire to stay.
Yeah, I think it's a really important shift in workplace attitudes. Over the last 100 years, they do all these workplace attitude surveys. Not a lot has changed, but that number has gone up significantly to 75% now. So I think it's if you're employing people or want to employ people, it's an important shift worth paying attention to.
It is, and how organizations show that is through their employee value proposition. What is it that we offer you as a company that's better, different, stronger, faster than other places? What are the things that you're going to gain here? And when you're looking at that, it's not just the money, it's not just the healthcare, but it's those other things that the guest was talking about, I'm sure.
Absolutely, yes. All right, I want to take a break from all this serious stuff. I want to play a game. Are you up for a game?
Totally, always.
All right. The name of this game is Rapid Response. I'm going to ask you a series of questions. I'd like you to respond with the first thing that comes to mind. Now, don't be fooled by the term rapid. You don't need to give a one-word answer. Elaborate as much or as little as you'd like. We just want to get to know Dr. Roz a little bit, okay?
Sounds good.
All right. Are you ready?
I'm ready as I'm going to be, I think.
All right. Dr. Roz, rapid response round. Your time begins now. A podcast recommendation.
We come back to that because I can't think of the name of it, but I will.
We've never asked anyone to skip. We'll skip and I'll come back.
Thank you.
That's something new we'll add to the game. What is a practice you'd like to see more people embrace?
At work, right?
Anywhere.
Anywhere. Gratitude. People feeling and taking a moment at every in their day, at the end of their day, to feeling gratitude for the good and positive things that have happened. Because inevitably, even if it was just waking up in the morning, something positive happened that day.
Absolutely. Who is someone we should all be paying attention to?
Can I get political?
You can. These are your answers. You can say whatever you want.
We need to be really paying attention to what Trump does in relation to what's happening in Minnesota and the other diversions that keep popping up, like the Epstein files or a variety of other things that move our attention away from the real problems to the bright and shiny thing that he's trying for us to look at.
Absolutely. I'm a big believer, regardless of your politics, I think looking at root causes is very important, right?
Absolutely.
What is either your get pumped up song or your walk on music?
So my pump up song is probably something by either Taylor Swift or Pompeii, which is that used to be my first running song. Whenever I would start my run, that was the song.
Okay. The biggest influence in your life?
Probably my father. My dad and I were very close. He passed several years ago, but we were very close. He was the person that if there was a question or a problem in my life, someone I needed to bounce stuff off of, he was the guy I would turn to.
That's great. A book everyone should read.
Can I do a shameless plug right now?
Absolutely, you can plug your own book. We're going to talk about it a little later, but you also have to tell us about a book you have read recently or are reading now.
Yeah, so I'll tell you. I'll plug my book later. We just came back from a 3-day retreat. The entire company went away to talk about who we are as an organization, to look at us, to be able to have some of those connections both formalized and structured, as well as those water cooler conversations. And one of the workshops we did there was around Unreasonable Hospitality, the book by Will Guidara. And if you have not read that, I would highly recommend it. He doesn't need me to plug his book. He's best-selling author. But the ability to take what he talks about and apply it is universal to any it's not just about being in restaurants or in hospitality. You can take that and do that anywhere.
That sounds great. And the whole reason I asked this question to all our guests is because I'm looking to add books to my reading list. So that's one I haven't read.
It's so good.
Yeah. As you answer the next question, please hold up your book. It's called The Engagement Dilemma. So if you're not sticking around for the whole podcast, which I think you should do, you should stick around so you can hear us talk about the engagement dilemma. So while you're answering this question, hold that book up. Your favorite recreational activity?
If I'm feeling like I want to get out, it's just walking. It's just taking the moment and being in the air and doing it with my 4-year-old golden doodle. Other than that, I really love traveling. Wherever, whenever, it doesn't matter. going to a new place, best thing.
Fantastic, because that's the next question is, what's your dream vacation spot?
So I'm going to be celebrating a milestone birthday in a couple of years, and I've already told friends and family that we are going to Bali. I want to stay a couple of days in those huts that are over the water with the glass bottom, and someone brings your food to you via kayak or whatever. I want that for a couple of days. So that's my dream vacation.
That sounds pretty great. What is a trend you're excited about?
Trend that I am excited about. I'm not really good with trends, but a trend that I have been excited about is this moving away from very corporate-like cultures, this very structured, you have to fit in a particular box in order to be able to work here, versus how do we create the culture that allows people to show up as they want to. And the thing that always pops in my mind is jeans versus dress slacks. Spent the past 25 years working in finance, and so there was the blue shirt, the white shirts, blue pants, the white shirts and khaki pants, or some version of that is really gone, which I'm appreciative of.
Look, I think we're just lucky we got the finance guys out of suits and ties every day. So
that and Patagonia vests, although I don't think Patagonia vests will ever die. I think that's here forever.
Your favorite sports team or player?
So I like the Valkyries, which is the women's basketball team here in San Francisco. They're amazing. Not only are they amazing players, they put on a great show. They're so hyped up. They're so excited about it. So that's my favorite team.
Yeah, WNBA has gotten very big here in Las Vegas with the Aces because they've had so much success. But they are selling out the arena they play in now almost every game. So congratulations to the WNBA and all the great women who are really driving the interest in that sport. Okay, you skipped a podcast recommendation. Do you want to come back to that?
Yes. Give me a second to look her up. Hold on one second, because her podcast is amazing. And not only because I was on it, but you can cut all this crap out, right? This part, because I just said crap on the air.
I will cut things out, but this is all very entertaining, so we'll probably keep this part in.
Oh no! Okay, hold on. Let me find her podcast.
If it takes too long, I will cut it out. But
no, it's not going to take that long. So her name, so the podcast host, and we really vibed, and what she talks about is so important. Her name is Celine Williams, and her podcast is called Leading Through Crisis. And it's not, what I love about her podcast is crisis is not about the big PR thing that goes on. Crisis is about conflict within an organization, or conflict that's happening that you want to help people move through. It's more about change management and helping people manage that. So I really like her podcast. I think she's great.
That's great, because I don't know that one. Again, just like the book question, the podcast question is so I can find new podcasts to listen to. I don't know how the audience feels about any of this. This is all this game. But I'm going to go check that out. And I agree. It's, crisis, leading through a crisis starts long before the crisis ever comes along. So everybody go check that podcast out and start with the Dr. Roz episode of that podcast.
Sounds perfect.
All right. Thank you for playing our game, Roz. It was a lot of fun to get to know you a little bit. Getting back to it. So you work with organizations that are trying to build this belonging and connection. Once an organization sees that they're missing belonging and connection, and they decide that it's something they need to do something about, how do they go about doing it? Where do they start? I mean, do we start at the C-suite with this? Do we start at the front line? How do you go into an organization, and how does it all fit together?
So you need to have buy-in from everyone. And that sounds like a sort of throwaway response. If you have the C-suite directing it, and only the C-suite directing it, what you have is a top-down push to an organization versus ownership coming from within the organization. So it has to be a blending and a melding. You need to have an executive sponsor, someone in the C-suite who thinks this is an important. It is even better if it's not the chief people officer or the CHRO, because when we think about people stuff, inevitably we're like, okay, well, that's an HR thing. We'll have HR handle it. That's why DEI for, excuse me, the first part of the beginning of those conversations happened in HR, because it's a people thing. But when you have real buy-in from the business lines and from the revenue generating parts of the organization, you send a different message to the organization. You say that this is so important that we want to have people who don't just lead people, but are part of the business case for the organization, a part of this conversation. So you have a C-suite person, potentially a CHRO or CPO as well, and then you create a group of people that want to help to do this. And they can self-identify, they can be chosen, or as some people call it, voluntold. Whatever that is you need to have both parts of the organization. It can't just be a C-suite initiative in the same way that it can't just be led by the people, by the employees themselves. It's got to be connected.
Yeah, nothing says something's important like when the CEO or the COO or the CFO says something's important and then keeps asking everybody about it, right?
Right. That's right.
So we need that at the top. And so ideally, we've got someone who's a champion for this besides the chief people officer.
Correct.
And then sticks with it, because that's, again, going back to the Air Force, I saw a lot of times when a 3-star or 4-star general would say, this is really important to me, and then move on to something else. And then we would all kind of shrug and go, we'll see how important this is to you.
That's exactly right. Exactly right. And people own what they help create, right? And so if they're part of creating the culture of the organization, they're going to own it, and they're going to become advocates for it, and they're going to become, the ones who are leading the charge.
Absolutely. I love it. I love to hear that the answer is it's got to kind of be everywhere. Now, We talked a little bit about how change management is hard. Even when everyone's on board, or when most people are on board, I'm willing to bet when you go into these companies, there's a little bit of resistance in some pockets to the kind of change you're bringing in.
Yep.
What is the resistance you see, and how do you overcome it?
The fundamental or the foundational piece of change is fear. People are afraid that they are going to lose something, or something is going to be unfamiliar and uncomfortable. So what you have to do is help people understand what the change is, and that they are going to lose some things. Change inevitably comes with both losses and gains. So you need to be honest and genuine about what that looks like. In order to be able to do that, you have to have transparency and open communication, and that really does become key piece of any change model. It doesn't matter which one it is how are you communicating what's happening, why the change is happening, listening to people's fears and their concerns, addressing those, and continue to iterate on those conversations, have them often. That for me, what I have seen, and I'm thinking of a company that I had worked with, it really was about fear. It was about, we're going to lose something either as a company, as an individual, as a department, if we go from A to B. And it doesn't matter what A to B is. So having people walk through and share what those things are becomes a critical component.
I think that's so important. We've had this conversation a number of different ways, a number of different times on this podcast. And I don't think any guest has ever brought up, we need to be honest about what people are going to lose in any change. And it's true. In any change, we do lose something. And I can't tell you how many times I went through things in the Air Force or some other organization where they said, nothing's going to change for you. It's all just going to be better. Right. And we all go through that in our career the first time, and we believe it, and then we never believe it again after that. And I think it's so important that we do need to be honest about some things are going to change. You are going to lose some things, but also here's what you're going to gain out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you are a more genuine and authentic leader If you do that, right, continuing to say everything's wonderful, everything's great. Well, look, everything's not wonderful and great. Here's where we're falling down. Here's where we know that it's going to be really hard for people to go from point A to point B. But here's what we can tell you. Here are the things that we can try to control for. Here's how we're going to support you during those changes. Here's how we're going to look at things more critically and hear what you have to say. People may not like it, but they will respect the fact that you are including them in the process. They will respect the fact that you see it from their perspective, which goes back to the idea of feeling valued and heard and appreciated, because ultimately that's what people want.
Yeah, I think that's so important. I think it's we show people why we value them by being honest with them, by telling them things that they don't necessarily want to hear but need to hear, right?
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
We've talked a lot about what kind of the leaders who are already in place need to do to bring about this culture of belonging and connection. When it comes to developing our emerging leaders, our future leaders, what are some of the key traits and skills we want to develop in them to get this new culture to stick going forward?
So I am probably a huge, not probably, I am very much a leader and a believer in inclusive leadership and explaining to people and teaching managers, particularly new managers, what that means. It doesn't mean that everybody is kumbaya. It doesn't mean that there's no conflict. But what it means is that people have the opportunity to bring their experiences, their understanding, and their uniqueness to an organization, and it will be appreciated and valued. And it seems like a hefty goal and a hefty charge, and it is, but it doesn't start that way. You can do very small things and teach managers how to create this space that really does impact the way an organization works and the culture of that organization. So helping folks understand what is inclusive leadership and how it works.
Love it. All right. We know how you feel about remote and hybrid work.
Yes.
We know that certain technologies enable that, but I do want to get your take on other advances in technology, specifically how AI fits into this discussion about belonging, connection, inclusion.
Yep. Oh, I battle with this myself pretty often.
And that's good. I think it's good that you battle with it because I think we all battle with it. And I think it's really important for someone like you to get on a podcast and say that you battle with it.
Yep, totally. I don't know. And part of the reason for that is I don't think we quite understand all of this yet. I think that there are still ways in which we're trying to figure out if AI can be, look, it's here. We're not going to stop it. How we use it in ways that serve us versus having it be what we lead with is really going to be the struggle and the balance, I think. Whether or not we want people to be doing, whether or not we want people to be, chat GPTing what they're going to say to their boss or what the answer to a problem is, doesn't really matter. It's happening. So how are we having conversations about best to use it? What practices are we putting in place to make sure that people are looking at it and using it in ways that are beneficial versus detrimental? I honestly, I struggle with this all the time. I don't exactly know. It is not, it sort of freaks me out at moments. And at some moments I'm like totally into it. So I don't know if I have a great answer.
I think that's a fair answer, and I think it's probably how a lot of people feel about it. And it is a great endorsement of having in-person conversations instead of chat or email conversations. That way you can authentically connect with someone and have a conversation and not wonder if they're asking Chat GPT what to say next.
That's exactly right. Nobody's in the background sort of typing it in while they're having the conversation. Again, I just think, when you're standing next to someone or when you're looking at someone, even if it's video, although less so, you have a very different experience and there's nuances that you pick up on that you're not going to be able to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Remotely.
For folks who are unfamiliar with the behind the scenes of my studio here, I have you up on a teleprompter. I could have a Chat GPT window up right next to you
Totally.
telling me what to say next. I don't. I hope the audience believes me. I don't, but I do have my question for you up over your
Sure.
image while I'm doing this video with you. I am curious because, like I said, I think you gave us a very honest answer about sometimes it's amazing, sometimes I really kind of dread it. How are
Yep.
you using AI in your work now?
I use AI in one of two ways. Mostly, I know what I want to say. I find the best thing for me is to help it be a prompt. So I prompt it to say, I want to say this with these components to it. Help me out. And then take that information and adapt it, usually 80% or 70%, like a lot of it. But it removes me from the rut and from thinking too much about what I want to say and how I want to say it. So that's how I use it. Even if it's to respond back to an email where I want to be more diplomatic. The best time I've used AI is I was really frustrated at something that was going on at work, and I knew my emotion was going to be way too much and inappropriate. So I typed into AI what I wanted to say and prompted it to say, I want this not without emotion, but I want this less emotional than I'm feeling. And it unfortunately or fortunately did a great job in helping me craft something that was really got to the heart of what I wanted to say without all that emotion clouding it.
So I think the takeaway is, and tell me if I'm getting this wrong, well-intentioned use of technology, especially AI, can actually help us with belonging, connection, and inclusion because we are actually thinking about the other person and how they're going to receive our message.
That's a bold statement. I don't know if that's true. I think it all depends. Technology in general can either be a conduit or it can be a dam, right? It can help move things forward, and depending upon how you use it and depending upon the way in which you think about it is really sort of how it shows up. So I don't. Yes, and would be my answer to that.
Yes, and is always a fine answer to everything, I think. No, the debate will continue, and honestly, I think it's healthy that we're having this debate because we didn't have this debate about social media because everybody treated it like a toy.
Yep.
Nobody took it seriously, and because we went through all of that and continue to go through all of that, we're actually having really serious conversations about how we want AI to fit into our lives, and I think that's only goodness that we're having those conversations.
I agree.
All right, I've made everybody wait long enough. Tell us about the book.
Oh, the book, The Engagement Dilemma. So, I decided about almost 10 years ago now that I was going to go get back and get my PhD because I'm out of my mind. And this book is the culmination of my dissertation in very practical, pragmatic ways. So as a leader, I'm a very practical person. At least I try to be. What works for the business? How are we going to make that happen? How do we not get into trouble, and what are the risks? And we look at all those things when we make decisions, particularly around people, right? So what I wanted from my dissertation was something that I could hand to a leader or hand to an HR professional and say, this will help you. And to that point, in the back of every chapter is what I call a tear sheet. So it gives you very practical things from the chapter that you can do in your organization in order to be able to implement it. So I'm very proud of this and very excited to be able to share it with you.
This is one of my favorite things in life because my last assignment in the Air Force was as an instructor at Air War College in an academic environment. And so I got to learn how research is done, the importance of research. My very first assignment in the Air Force was working with a bunch of PhDs in a rocket propulsion laboratory in California. So I kind of bookended my Air Force time with these very academic assignments and understood the detail, the effort, the really hard work that goes into research to answer a very small question. When you're doing a PhD dissertation, you're answering a very small question, and that work, lots of people working together build up all that work into the things that we get out into the mainstream. So one of my favorite things in life is when someone does their PhD, they take their dissertation and they turn it into something that's really easily digestible and practical for the rest of us to use, because I'm trained in it, But if you're not trained in it, reading academic research can be very confusing. You can walk away with a lot of inaccurate conclusions from it. So I love that you did this, and I love when people have taken their PhD and turned it into something that that lay people like me can all use.
Yeah, that was the goal. The goal was it doesn't matter whether you're a CHRO, entry into HR, CEO, or just someone who wonders, asks the question, why are people not happy at work? The goal was to be able to give them something to read that's really, I think, funny, although my children would disagree that I'm funny, but really does it in a way that I think gets to both your heart and your head, because I wanted it to be a really accurate representation of who I am.
All right, well, everyone go get the book and let Roz know if you think it's funny or not. So
Love that.
if the book turns out to be funny, we'll have her back on when she's got her tight 5 for the Comedy Store ready, and we'll talk about that. Well, besides your tight 5 for the Comedy Store, what's coming up for you in the next few months?
I am going to be visiting my kids. Both are what I'll call semi-adults in their early 20s, and one lives in Arizona, and the other one's currently living in Germany. So a little travel. Looking forward to a little more sun here in San Francisco, depending upon the day, and just trying to I go back to my grateful piece, just trying to have one good thing every day that I'm grateful for. Other than that, it's just doing it. Yeah.
I love that. We've talked about a lot of stuff. Is there anything else you want to leave us with before we let you go?
Yeah. Not related to my book, not related to engagement, but I would say as a culture, let's pick our heads up out of our phones and look around and really connect with people versus the technology that we hold in our hands every day.
I love it. Put that phone in your pocket, put it aside, put it face down on the table.
Yep. Exactly.
Don't bring it to dinner if you can avoid it.
Exactly.
I love it. All right. Roz, thank you so much for joining us. It's been so great, so enlightening. Where can everyone find you so they can also thank you for joining us today?
Yes, and thank you. This was really a true pleasure. I really enjoyed our conversation. You can find me on my website, which will allow you to send messages to me if you'd like. It's www.Roz, R-O-Z, Cohen, COHEN.com.
All right. And the book is available on Amazon. I checked this morning. Is it available anywhere else?
It's available everywhere. If you just type it in, Amazon usually comes up first, but there's a ton of different places that you can get it.
Yep, it's out there. So everybody get the book. Reach out to Dr. Roz and let her know if you think she's funny or not. Thank you again for joining us. I want to thank all of you for watching and listening. If you found this conversation valuable, go ahead and share it with someone who can use it. Leave us a comment. Don't forget to subscribe. And since I'm asking you all for favors, if you're on a podcast player and you can leave us a review, please leave us a 5-star review so we can get the audience built up bigger for these conversations with amazing guests like Roz. And we do have a lot more interviews coming your way. Go out there, do great things today. Onward and upward.